So my objective is really to provide a short update on some of the thinking about reinventing some of our core processes, very much based around product development or product creation, and how that is inevitably a team sport. So how do we work together and synchronize to create those opportunities for the future? This slide is something that's more of a reflection than anything else. But effectively, what we believe we need to try and do now is create augmentation of our people's capability through technology, data and insights, creating what some are calling amplified intelligence by using the data and systems that we now know we can create or access, and leveraging that in a very agile way for the speed of execution. So my reflections on this, and having spent some time with my colleagues at Ford, but also with some of the industry represented on this call, is that the changes that we're making at the moment are primarily about the way people work, and how we leverage those technologies and data available at a much smaller level. Actually, it's us, it's our culture, and it's our way of working that we need to fix primarily. But there are some very important tool changes that need to be made. So for us, we were thinking through these as the 4 M's. So very much motivation in everything we're doing is really important. So dealing with these transformations on high impact issues that are business critical, and ultimately will change the fortune of a company or the outcome, and ultimately making sure that those business issues are measurable. Secondly, from that, it's much easier to get to the mission. So clarity on what we're trying to do, what we're achieving or seeking to achieve, and also making sure that those goals are easy to communicate and easy to measure. But ultimately, in this part of the discussion, it's about team selection, and both within Ford, but also in partnerships across the industry. It's the team selection that really makes these processes really happen successfully, the ability to leverage one another's capability. But the third M is method. And you've heard many times during this seminar session about engineering tools or tool changes for the future, and the accompanying business process and tool changes. And we've really got to make sure we synchronize both of those. As I said, product development, product creation is a process that uses and leverages all of those skills around us and all of those experiences from those other competencies in order to get the best outcome. So finding a way of synchronizing business and engineering tools is going to be really important, and making sure that any technology we introduce is integrated into the business and doesn't feel like an add-on. And then finally, momentum. When we've got through the process, demonstrating with a proof of concept that we have an outcome that is sustainable, and managing the storytelling around that project is also really important, because we need to pass the baton on. We're often at the front end of a process when we make big decisions. We need to make sure those decisions have build momentum and are maintained. So together we've been trying to use this thought process on the next generation of transit commercial vehicle that we're developing at the moment, and we've developed that with some projects, including with partners like McLaren, for example, where we've used model-based systems engineering to build the thought process and the engineering to avoid significant volume of prototypes, for example, as we head towards our production date. But actually, it wasn't just the engineering that needed to change, it was also the business thinking. So effectively, what we also needed to do is start reinventing the way we make decisions. Traditionally, a big company, many stakeholders, and often those stakeholders, shown in the bottom right-hand of this screen, have very good information technology systems in their own right, whether it's FCSD, the parts business, or the quality team or the PD team. The systems that those teams use tend to be very effective. It's just bringing all of that learning together was really challenging for us, and to do that very fast. So effectively what we've tried to do is reimagine our decision-making process so we can operate much faster in making big decisions quickly. So Firstly, on the left-hand side of the screen here, critical decisions. We wish to create an environment where the data is around us. We're submerged in the data and able to access it seamlessly. So creating much greater access and harvesting of the data, so the decisions become more straightforward to build evidence around, including putting some game-changing technology in place to look at, for example, the emotion of, for example, Twitter feeds as it relates to a product, for example, and using that to further enhance the areas we should look at when we're making these decisions. Through that, we create robust insights. And secondly, and if you think about this diagram, it was developed before COVID-19, we were thinking about remote working, the visualization of decisions, and making sure that we could bring that data together, ultimately so that multiple stakeholders, those cross-functional teams, could work together to ultimately get a robust decision in a timely way. So this model is something we're working with, we're piloting, and the room that's shown at the top of right hand of the screen is one of the examples that we connect both remotely and together in an immersive environment. So this, together with the new digital tools on engineering, is helping us really start to get our heads around how we deliver those 4 M's. So maybe sometimes you need an unexpected opportunity to really test the case here. And we've had one of those in the last 6 or 8 weeks. That's where the motivation, the mission, the method, and the momentum were all there ready for us. And that's around the scale-up challenge for the ventilators that are required by the NHS. And many of the industry members worked together on this challenge, and Ford was able to work with Dick Elsey and his team, Airbus, McLaren and others, to be involved in the scale-up of the Penlon device. And effectively, a number of the tools and the methods that I've just described to you were in action on this project, not born from Ford, but born from this consortium as we went over the last 6 weeks. And they grew the project from its humble beginnings on the 16th of March through a whole host of changes, installing complete new supply chains, manufacturing locations at 3 different locations across the country, as well as an assembly site, procuring over 11 million parts in that time frame, that's 6 short weeks, and incurring the support of many external companies, over 50 external companies in achieving this, and doing that with synchronization and decision making and engineering that was at the speed of light. So I think what we now know can be done, we need to transfer back into our businesses, because this is the way we will reinvent our engineering and our business.